In a smoke-filled room, far from the roar of cannons, the real war was being fought. A cabal of Europe's most powerful bankers, their faces etched with calculation, gathered around a heavy oak table. Before them lay not just maps of military campaigns, but a more intricate battlefield of ledgers and gold. In the sepia-toned stillness, broken only by the clink of a coin, they weren't choosing sides, they were financing them. Every loan extended, every bond issued was a strategic move in a game where nations were mere pawns. These men, invisible to the history books, were the silent architects of conflict, understanding that the greatest spoils of war were not territories, but the debts that would bind empires for generations to come. Their conspiracy was not one of whispers, but of cold, hard numbers, sealing the fate of millions with the stroke of a pen. A stark and brutal contrast defined the era. On one side, the grim reality of the battlefield unfolded in mud and blood. Wounded soldiers, their faces masks of agony, lay amidst the carnage, their sacrifices rendered anonymous by the scale of the slaughter. But in the foreground of this human tragedy, another scene played out with chilling detachment. Elegant, manicured hands untouched by dirt or despair. Methodically counted stacks of gleaming gold coins. The cold gleam of the metal seemed to mock the gray, smoky sky and the profound suffering just a few feet away. This was the true duality of war. For every life lost in the trenches, a fortune was being amassed in the quiet, protected sanctums of high finance, a chilling testament to the disconnect between human cost and financial gain. In the opulent halls of power, kings and emperors, once the absolute masters of their domains, were now supplicants. Before them, on tables groaning under the weight of golden chandeliers, lay the instruments of their surrender, financial treaties and debt documents. Their expressions were tense, a mixture of regal pride and quiet desperation as they signed away their nation's futures. The power in these rooms was not wielded by swords or scepters, but by the silent, unyielding force of debt. The lenders, often commoners by birth but titans by wealth, held the true authority, their shadows looming larger than the crowned heads they served. Each signature was another link in a chain of financial servitude, binding entire empires to the will of those who controlled the flow of gold. The mechanism of this new global order extended far beyond the battlefields and palaces of Europe. In distant colonies, the price of these debts was paid in sweat and toil. On vast plantations under a relentless sun, exhausted workers harvested the raw materials that fueled the industrial heart of the empires. In the background of these scenes of human exploitation, the symbols of European finance and industry loomed large, smokestacks piercing the sky, merchant ships crowding the horizon. This was a layered global system, where the labor of millions in one part of the world was systematically extracted to service the debts incurred in another. The wealth of the colonies was not just plundered, it was mortgaged, its value siphoned off to feed a financial machine that knew no borders. Historic ports buzzed with a new kind of commerce, a silent and relentless transfer of wealth. Merchant ships, their holds laden not just with sugar and cotton but with gold bullion, financial instruments, and sealed ledgers, sailed between continents. On the docks, merchants and financiers negotiated in hushed tones, their transactions weaving an invisible web of global trade and debt that connected bustling European cities with remote colonial outposts. The golden light of twilight reflecting on the water seemed to illuminate a world in motion, a world where money, not armies, was becoming the primary tool of conquest. This was the age of capital unbound, crossing borders as effortlessly as the tide, reshaping the world in its own image. As the sun rose on a desolate battlefield, a profound and melancholic truth was revealed. The conflict was over. Amidst the abandoned cannons and the silent fallen soldiers, the ground was littered with the debris of war. But here and there, glinting in the soft morning light, lay something that had survived the carnage intact: gold coins. They remained perfect, untarnished, their value undiminished by the human cost of the battles they had funded. In this final symbolic tableau, the true victor was clear. It was not a nation or an ideology, but the abstract, immortal power of money itself. Men died, empires crumbled, but the gold and the debt it represented endured.